I think it's really important to recognize the value of specializing or niching into a specific area.
Mm,
If you're a jack of all trades and master of none, if you're offering your services as a general, health coach or even a therapist, like my own profession, you're not really speaking to anybody. If you try and speak to everybody, you're speaking to nobody is really the rule of thumb. And people are afraid of niching down because they're like, oh, well, then I'm cutting out loads of different people that I could potentially work with. But people are online all of the time now. They're researching, they're Googling, they're looking at YouTube, and they are looking to find a connection with somebody who really can help them. You, as a health coach, as a therapist, as a nutritionist, are competing with every other health professional in private practice when it comes to, attracting clients. And the more specific you are about what you do, who you help, and speaking their language and really naming their pain point, the more warm the lead is going to be, the client is going to be. They're going to read your website, they're going to read your posts on social media, they're going to really resonate with what you're saying, and they're going to come to you specifically.
Welcome to another episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. I'm your host, Omar Cumberbatch of omarcumberbatch.com. So excited for you to join me today. We have an awesome guest. Her name is Emma Murphy, and she really crushes it today. Really happy and excited to share her with you. She really breaks down a lot of stuff that I think that we're all going through as health coaches. It's really interesting that she is navigating a market that is really, really popular nowadays, right? So in my other podcast, this podcast Burns Fat, we really get into a lot of topics, obviously about weight loss. But what I've been experiencing is in like the last, say, a year and a half, 2 years, it's been really heavy laced with a lot of guests who are interested in talking about emotional eating and a lot of that type of topic. And I think it's becoming something. I shouldn't say think it's becoming, so it's obviously becoming a big deal because so many people are entering that space. So she shares that dynamic with us and really gets to the bottom of a lot of what's going on in that part of it, but also just shows us how to navigate what some people may consider like a saturated market. And, she created something that is actually an emerging market, right? And really just demonstrates how she did it. So I'm really happy to share her with you. As always, please go on iTunes, leave a rating and review. It goes a long way for me to continuously get awesome guests like Emma. And as always, I love your support. Let's jump into the show. Hey, Emma, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks, Omar. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Listen, I was very excited to share you with the audience. I think that what you're doing out there is so amazing. And I definitely want to give you an opportunity to just touch on a little bit about your origin story. And then we'll jump into some questions afterwards. Because, as we spoke off the air, this is such a huge topic that I'm excited to bring to the audience and to life, and your expertise is going to be so valuable for everyone listening today. So I welcome you to the show, and
Thanks.
yeah, give us a little bit of your origin story, and then we'll jump into those questions.
Sure. So I actually went back to college at the age of 30 to retrain. uh, uh, I did do a degree in psychology. And from the get, restarted writing essays on it. And then when I finished my degree, I went on to do my postgrad. I decided I wanted to specialize in disordered eating as a practitioner in private practice, a psychotherapist in private practice. So 2009, I opened my practice and I worked for 12 years almost exclusively with eating disorders. At the beginning, it would have been a lot of folks with a diagnosis of anorexia or bulimia. Binge eating disorder wasn't a thing. Emotional eating wasn't really a thing back then. There was a move to try and get binge eating disorder recognized as an eating disorder, and that did happen in 2013. It entered the DSM-5 as a diagnosis. And since then, yeah, I've just worked with hundreds and hundreds of men and women, and in groups and one-to-one, helping them with their relationship with food. And I suppose out of that experience, I developed a program. It was kind of a structured framework to be able to work with clients because despite the fact that everybody has a very different origin story themselves and, where it came from or how it started, and it's usually linked to trauma, um, a lot of the markers, a lot of the characteristics, a lot of the behaviors across the population of people who struggle with emotional eating and binge eating are very similar. So it was very helpful for me to have a framework or methodology that I could walk clients through. And that developed out of my work with the clients. So I would test, tools, resources, ideas I had with the clients. And if it worked for enough people, it went into the program. And that's where the Eating Freely program came from. So when it came to about 2017 then, so I've been in practice for, 8 years at that stage. I had a really big waiting list. I had a lot of people wanting to see me. Eating disorders, not that sexy an area for therapists to want to work in. So it was hard for people to find help. So I started training a couple of my therapist colleagues, and that was kind of a side hustle. I trained a few people that I knew, then I trained a bigger group of people that I knew, then I got it approved as a continuing education program and started training other therapists that I didn't know. And yeah, in 2020, we were all set to go out and really start marketing it internationally. But we were still doing training, Omar, in a room, face to face in a classroom or a hotel or, the old style. And of course, when COVID hit, that put an end to all of our plans for 2020. Until we managed to get an award, a little grant from Social Entrepreneurs Ireland, and we put our training online. And almost immediately, we started getting interest from health coaches and nutritionists in the US who were actively looking for this training, seeing it a lot, presenting with clients, particularly clients looking for weight loss, but also type 2 diabetes. That's another big area. And we've been training people around the world ever since. So yeah, we've trained over 300 people in 10 countries. We've 60 licensed practitioners licensed to deliver the Eating Freely program. And yeah, it's just been really exciting ever since we went online. It was a real game changer for the business.
No, that's amazing. And it's just fascinating because of the evolution. And I saw that, like you had mentioned, it wasn't a very popular topic of discussion, when you started and it's evolved. I have my other podcast, this podcast, Burns Fat, and we're inundated with people who are trying to get that message out because it's so relevant today and it's something that is on the minds of so many people. So in a long-winded question that I try to put the foundation to that aspect of it today, it's in my mind, not that it's saturated, but there's a lot of people who are jumping into the water trying to touch this, and you've been so successful in it. And I think health coaching in general can be considered a saturated market. What do you give, like, as far as advice for health coaches who may be difficult, having difficulty dealing with that, maybe not in this particular topic, but just in their practice as well, because you've been so good at differentiating yourself in these waters?
Yeah, I think it's really important to recognize the value of specializing or niching into a specific area.
Mm.
If you're a jack of all trades and master of none, if you're offering your services as a general, health coach or even a therapist, like my own profession, you're not really speaking to anybody. And if you try and speak to everybody, you're speaking to nobody is really the rule of thumb. And people are afraid of niching down because they're like, oh, well, then I'm cutting out loads of different people that I could potentially work with. But people are online all of the time now. They're researching, they're Googling, they're looking at YouTube, and they are looking to find a connection with somebody who really can help them. You, as a health coach, as a therapist, as a nutritionist, are competing with every other health professional in private practice when it comes to, attracting clients. And the more specific you are about what you do, who you help, and speaking their language and really naming their pain point, the more warm the lead is going to be, the client is going to be. They're going to read your website, they're going to read your posts on social media, they're going to really resonate with what you're saying, and they're going to come to you specifically. So I'm a health coach who can help everybody with any type of health issue is very different from I am a qualified, trained specialist in emotion eating and binge eating disorder, and I can help you, find true freedom around food forever. They're two very different messages. And who do you think the client who's struggling with emotion binge eating is going to go to? They're going to go to the specialist, the expert. So trying to ensure that you've got some kind of niche, and it doesn't have to be different. You can be in the same niche as a lot of other people. I mean, the other really popular one at the moment is menopause. A lot of people are offering menopause support, but then, 50% of the population of the world is female. So there's plenty of clients to go around also. So
Right,
not to
right.
be afraid to niche into something that maybe is quite popular, um, but also maybe to differentiate yourself. Maybe it's the way that you work, maybe it's how you offer your services, or maybe it's that you have lived experience. And, a lot of people in health coaching and therapy have their own lived experience. They come into this profession like myself later in life, maybe as a result of some experience or health event that they had themselves. Don't be afraid to speak to that either, because clients really appreciate that you have an actual personal understanding of what they're going through.
Mm.
So they
Yeah,
would be
no,
two of the things that I would say.
I love it, and I'm glad that you broke it down. And I think you're such a unique person to have like this conversation with, because I also want to follow up with that, because again, you were in a market that didn't necessarily have its footing at the time. Were
Mm-mm.
you at all concerned about about the reach, about the money, about the ability to get clients, knowing that the market wasn't established yet?
No, not at all. Because they found me, and that's exactly what I mean. They were looking for help. They couldn't find the help that they needed. Clients who come to us have been around the houses. They've gone to every weight loss program going. Back in the day, clients would tell me, I've tried Weight Watchers, I've tried Slimming World, I've tried Overeaters Anonymous, I've joined gyms, I've had food delivered to the door, I've tried meal replacement drinks. They've tried everything, but they were looking in the wrong market. They were looking in weight loss. And that's never going to help somebody with an emotional relationship with food or a trauma related binge eating disorder. So they come to a point where they recognize they need specialist help, that it's not about weight loss, that they actually need to do the inner work first. And then they would find me. And that is actually why I began training practitioners. And, just to tell that story, I I worked with two other waiting for me. I don't know when I'm going to get to them. The list is only getting longer. Would you be interested in, me teaching you how to, deliver the eating freely program to clients? And they were like, oh yeah, okay, that's cool. So I did it with two practitioners in my room, and I just kind of ran them through the program, talked them through it, showed them the structures, shared the tools with them. And then as they took their first few clients, they were obviously able to come to me and have a little chat, if there was anything coming up that they couldn't deal with, or that they felt was, kind of very specialist. We also brought in a nutritionist. So I've always worked alongside a nutritional therapist. I am a psychotherapist. I'm not a nutritionist. And I also think that kind of dual support for the client. So collaborating with other professionals and building maybe that informal multidisciplinary network around you or around the client is also something that's really, really helpful. And there's a world of difference with that. You go into a doctor maybe, and the doctor gives you, I don't know, an eating plan, their own made up eating plan more often than not, because they're not trained in nutrition. They might put a client on an antidepressant or an anxiolytic. They may not even ask about the client's relationship with food. It's very impersonal, it's very quick, it's very rushed. We try and offer the opposite, which is truly personal, one-to-one care, but it could be with one or two other practitioners also, and that client is getting everything that they need. So it's the whole thing of just thinking, what do people really need? People
Mm.
really need to feel heard and supported. And in this day and age where we're all online and COVID and lockdown pushed us all, behind our screens, and we're all meeting on Zoom and we're all meeting virtually, connection is one of the most important things. And again, by niching into an area, specializing in that area, speaking the language of the clients are going to come and find you, and you will get a lot of referrals, because your client is going back to their doctor and saying, well, actually, I went to see this woman, Emma Murphy. And that's where a lot of my business used to come from, was people actually telling their doctors about the help that they were getting from me. And then
Mhm.
the doctors started referring people to me. And that's how I ended up getting so busy, So there's a ripple effect that happens over time when you do kind of niche down, specialize, and offer that very personal, um, individual support to a client for a niche. And that could be anything. It could be chronic pain, it could be inflammation, it could be gut issues, it could be menopause, it could be emotional eating, it could be anything. But when that client has been struggling with that thing for years, and they've been going to the doctor and not been heard or felt understood, and then they come into you, and you in the first session are able to let them know that you really do understand what they're going through, you really do get it, and you're there to help them in any way you can, that's the game changer, because that's when, your client base is going to grow through word of mouth and referral, because they're going to go out and tell their friends, their family, their doctor, and that's how you really build a business. We're all very busy shouting online, pick me. And actually, I think something's been lost. And I'm 56, so I'm old school. I'm going back to the days when I lived in a community and everybody who came to me was, local, lived within 10 miles of where I practiced. Um, Getting back to that local network, getting to know your GP, getting to know your physiotherapist, your dentist, your health food, shop owner, and just spreading the word locally and letting local people tell other local people about what you do and how good you are at it. That's actually a really good way to build a practice nowadays, and almost, forgetting about trying to shout online and compete with everybody else in the world who can offer generic services online.
Mhm. Right, yeah, no, that's something that I often pose as a marketing strategy. Referrals are so much better than just someone just jumping online and randomly searching for a person. And yeah, I'm excited about that because yeah, like, especially in your local community, people take for granted how many people are actually in need of services that are literally next door to you. And I've found a lot of people jump on the show and really express that. So thank you for sharing that. So basically, that's something that you incorporate to this day. Is that your main marketing strategy at this point? And, obviously it's been super successful for you. So I was curious if you've expanded beyond that a little bit.
Well, I mean, our practitioners, that's one thing that I would always say to them is, develop a referral network. Don't forget to look around your local community and get the word out in your local community. You'll do far better and build a far stronger, is, trusted business and network of referrals in your local community than you ever will online. So that is something that we very much teach our clients. But I mean, we're kind of operating at two levels all the time. Our goal is to be the world's leading network of emotion eating and binge eating disorder specialists.
Mhm.
But we have practitioners as far afield as South. That we have a network of practitioners in South Africa. We've got people in Australia. We trained somebody in New Zealand last year, Singapore, Turkey, all around the States, obviously the UK and Ireland, Sweden, Germany. We've practitioners everywhere, and now we're getting excited about the fact we also try and incorporate, new technology into what we're doing. We've got our online program, and we offer a group support program that combines our online program with coaching support, all online, all virtual. But we're now looking at potentially translating our program into different languages and been able to reach even further than we've been able to go before by actually making our program more accessible to people who don't speak English.
Mhm.
But so we're kind of operating globally and locally at the same time. So that German practitioner who is bilingual can work online with anybody, but she can also actually establish a full practice speaking German, offering our program in German, offering group support in German in her local town or community. So yeah, that's the goal.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, very inspirational. You know what it is too? I'm very curious because of the nature of the sensitivity of this topic. What challenges did that bring as far as even like say developing the program, sharing like some of these methods that you do incorporate? Was there anything that was difficult and challenging in getting that off the ground because of the sensitive nature of this issue?
Mm. One of the main things for us is that it's very difficult to actually get client testimonials, because very few clients will actually write a testimonial and admit that they came to see somebody for emotion eating and binge eating
Oh,
disorder. And that's always
interesting.
been a struggle for us. So that's why I said, a lot of the referrals that I would get came through doctors, like the patient, client going back to their doctor and telling their doctor, about working with me or working with us. Um, but at the same time, we are able to get enough people to anonymously maybe support, our program or give us feedback, and we ask for feedback from clients regularly. And as long as it's anonymized, they're usually happy to give us that. With regard to the sensitivity of the topics and stuff, we have to speak about it is what it is. It's emotion eating and binge eating disorder, and quite often the client has experienced trauma. And I do see that in health coaching and nutrition and dietetics, um, practitioners might be worried that they'd be working out of scope because they're not trained to work with trauma, and that the trauma is beyond the scope maybe for a lot of practitioners. But the way we have built our program, is that we can train practitioners from different disciplines to work with our clients safely and competently within scope. You're not going to work with the trauma directly, but you do have to be able to acknowledge it and validate it in the room. But then you're going to continue doing the work that you do through the program, which is effectively to help the clients separate their food from their feelings and then to separate their past from their present so that they can move on. And that is very much within the ethos of coaching, is that we're future focused and trying to
Mhm.
work from the present into the future. So we adapted our program for coaches. Therapists obviously can work with trauma and they can do that deeper work. But we actually, when we realized the interest from health coaches and nutritionists, when we went online in 2020, we actually reformulated our training, which allowed coaches and nutritionists to also be able to do this work and go a lot deeper with clients, but without straying outside of their competency or scope.
No, great answer. So one of those, I think to kind of wrap up, I wanted to just give you an opportunity because obviously you've been in the field a little bit at this point. So looking back, were there any like specific moments or turning points where you felt like you had to overcome a major hurdle in the growth of eating freely? And how did you navigate through that?
Well, I would say that lockdown was the biggest one.
Mm,
We were supposed to be delivering in-person training in the UK and in Australia in 2020. That was all booked, arranged.
mm,
We'd partnered with people to help us get the word out there, promotion campaigns, all of that, and all of it just completely disappeared. And if we hadn't had that grant from Social Entrepreneurs Ireland, which I'm very grateful for, and it was a very small grant, it was €5,000, but it was enough for us to put the first version of the training online.
mm,
And then we had to rebuild our whole client base. We had only been targeting therapists before then, and then we realized it was a different market. So we did, it really did slow us down. And, it was touch and go for a while, I won't lie. Um, but we just I believe in what we do. And that's really the big thing. I believe in what we do. I know that there are millions of adults out there who need this kind of specialist support. I know there are millions of, well, not millions, but a lot of health professionals who need this training.
hmm.
Because when you don't know what you don't know, you're going to start from the wrong place with the client. And if a client has come in looking for anything from weight loss support to support around endometriosis or PCOS or type 2 diabetes, or, there's all sorts of issues that co-occur or that you will find co-occurring emotion eating or binge eating. And so my goal at 56 and hoping to retire in the next sort of 7 to 8 years is to get my training out to as many practitioners as possible and know that I've passed on what I learned over, 25 years. And then I can retire with a clear conscience and know that people will continue doing the work that I started. And that's a lot about, we are a mission-driven organization. Our goal is to spread the word and get as many people trained as possible so the clients are getting the correct support that they need. And it's
Hmm.
so often missed by other, particularly the medical profession, I am going to say. Um, yeah, so we just want to get our training out there as much as possible. And I suppose when you have a mission-driven business, your setbacks, well, they happen to everybody. But as long as you are connected to your goal and, are passionate about it, you can overcome any obstacle. You just have to get creative in
Right,
your
right.
thinking and work around the obstacles. But yeah, everybody, like we've had bad months, we've had a bad year. 2020 was the bad year. I certainly had months where I didn't get paid. When I had a really successful practice, but then when I started the training business, I had a couple of months where I couldn't pay myself, and that happened regularly for a while. Um, but I believe in what I'm doing, so I just keep going.
No, no, and it's interesting that one of your, the biggest setback moments during lockdown and such, put you out on the other side. Like, it not only did you endure that, and I'm sure that just this restructuring your business so that you can support more people boosted your business, but also during the pandemic, so many people realized that they had this issue, right?
Yeah, it really,
So
it really brought it up for a lot of people. Yeah, it did.
yeah. No, so yeah, so some of the worst parts are your blessings. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. So yeah, I don't want to give another moment up at this point, because I know that there's a lot of people who listen to this program who are interested in what you do. So I want to give you a little opportunity to tell us about how to get in touch with you, obviously about this program and, maybe give like a little overview of what someone who would be entering the program who would want to take you up on one of these. I was going to call it a certification, but we established that it's definitely not a certification. You are doing a wonderful training and that people could take and incorporate into their practice. So yeah, jump into that a little bit. And then, yeah, of course, give your social media handles, your website, and all the things that we can do to keep in touch with all the great stuff that you're up to.
Thanks, Omar. Yeah, so our training runs for 12 weeks. It's all online. We have timed it so that we can take both European-based and US-based practitioners at the same time. It's on a Friday, so it's Friday morning in the US and it's Friday afternoon here in Europe. In case anybody hasn't guessed, I'm from Ireland, so that's where I'm tuning in from today. Um, and we run it for 12 weeks in total. And I have to say, I'm very proud of the training that we run, and I think it is very different to other trainings because as a therapist, I am quite hot on ethics and just making sure that people are properly trained. So we keep our training groups to a maximum of 10 people. Everybody gets a lot of individual support and feedback throughout the training. And the other thing that I think is different is from about halfway through the training, week 5, week 6, practitioners will start working with a case study client or two. So they're actually getting to practically implement the program during training under our supervision. And that means by the time you've training, you're fully confident that you're going to. I think one thing about training and continuing education training, our program is fully continuing education approved internationally, including by the MBHWC. So I know a lot of the health coaches will be board certified. Um, but a lot of continuing education training is very theoretical and it can be hard to figure out how to actually apply it to your practice. We absolutely make sure that you know that you've got a done for you 3-month specialist package or program that you can offer clients right out of the gate when you finish training. This is a way for you to grow your practice by specializing. And not only that, but whether you're a new practitioner and you're thinking about specializing in this area, or whether you're an established practitioner and you just know that emotion eating and binge eating is a big issue for a lot of clients across multiple areas, which it is, this training is going to give you a whole new toolkit of therapy informed and therapy based tools and strategies that you can bring in, and they're going to allow you to just go deeper with your client as a coach or a nutritionist. And that's because I'm bringing the therapy background into it, which is something a lot of other programs don't have.
Love it, love it. And again, I know this is going to touch many, many health coaches who listen because like, I can definitely say, and again, I mentioned earlier, just in the last couple of years, you see that this topic is really just bubbling to the surface and it's just ready to explode because it is something that is resonating with a lot of people. So I thank you for sharing that. And again, I know that we offered to your website, social media handle. Can you jump in and give that as well? Sorry.
Our website is eatingfreely.com. I'm on LinkedIn as Emma Murphy Psychotherapist, and I'm delighted to connect with any professionals there. Our Instagram is Eating Freely Program, and our Facebook is Eating Freely Program. So we're easy to find. Just Eating Freely will normally pop up in the search.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome name. I always get excited to hear when people are able to secure excellent domains because they're hard to come by nowadays for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Emma, have a great rest of your day. Appreciate you jumping on the show. Excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Omar. I really appreciate it. And anybody who wants to reach out to me, please feel free to do so anytime. Emma@eatingfreely.com is my email address, and I'm happy to hear from you anytime.
Sounds great. Thanks again.
Thanks a million. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. If you did, jump over to iTunes and leave a rating and or review. It goes a long way in helping get this message out to our fellow health coaches and people in our industry. Also, if you can, jump over to my website, omarcumberbatch.com, where I give out a lot of freebies, including my 5-day sugar challenge for people who are having issues with sugar. And also for health coaches, I have the book, Hidden. It's the 6 not so obvious ways to get your clients unstuck. Have a great day.